Today's ERQ is discuss ethical considerations in the study of the role of genetics in human behavior. So let's know the three important keywords here. The first is discuss. That means you need to give a for and against, a balanced review in your answer. Second important keyword is ethical consideration. That means you need to discuss about the ethics that are there in this study and give a balanced review of these ethics that are used in this study. The third keyword is genetics in human behavior. It simply means that you need to pick up two supporting studies from subtopic genetics that is there in biological approach. And as you all know, I'm going to give you almost a ready-made answer here. Please feel free to make changes and improvise it as you feel. So let's write a first paragraph, which is introduction and carries 2 marks. In this intro, make sure you include how genes affect our behavior. Secondly, what are usually the ethics issues that we face while studying the biological approach. Link genes, biological approach and ethics, all three together. So here it goes. Within the biological approach, it is assumed that research into genetic influence on behavior can eventually reveal the causes of psychological disorders such as depression or negative behaviors such as criminal activity. The diathesis stress theory suggests that genes may lead to a predisposition to a behavior or disorder, but there must be an environmental or physiological trigger for the genes to be expressed. Today, our knowledge about the exact role of specific genes is still incomplete. As with all research, genetic research must meet ethical standards. There are several ethical considerations such as informed consent and the risk of undue stress or harm. Now in my ERQ, I have already planned that what two studies I'm going to talk about. Since I know the studies, I will also know the ethics that are there in those studies. So those ethics I have already mentioned in my introduction. This is what you also have to do when you're writing the question. This is important, always do that. I have mentioned 2 ethics in my intro, that is informed consent and second is undue stress or harm. So let's write the second paragraph where I will highlight all the ethics and link it with the study. Here it goes. One consideration is informed consent. To obtain informed consent, the aim and the procedure of the research as well as any possible negative outcomes must be explained to the participant in language that the participant can understand. It could be argued that many people do not understand genetic research and its implications, and therefore informed consent cannot be easily obtained. A participant could find out that they have an unexpected genetic disposition for a particular mental illness. Although this could be considered a good thing because it could lead to changes in behavior and that would prevent the onset of the disorder, it could also cause undue stress. Another ethical consideration is genetic research, is undue stress or harm. Undue stress is when a participant experiences more stress than should be expected through the normal day-to-day activities. In research on the role of genetics on depression, Caspi found that having 2 short alleles for the 5-HTT gene made one more vulnerable to depression than someone with the long alleles. The question is whether testing someone for the genetic mutation and informing them that this may make them more vulnerable for depression is undue stress. One could argue that it is not, but instead is a way to help people cope with the potential onset of depression. Knowing that you may develop it may help people to take more precautions like watching their diet or exercising on a regular basis. Wilhelm et al. 2009 found that in a study of the 5-HTT gene, participants felt more positive than negative about getting the information. They felt that it was important to know. However, this was self-reported and may be the result of social desirability effect. Wilhelm et al. Also found that the participants with 2 short alleles showed much higher levels of stress after the learning results than the participants with 2 long alleles. There is a danger that having this knowledge could lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy, where individuals start to show signs of the disorder simply because they expect to get it. Finally, if the participants were to share this information with the doctor, it may lead to confirmation bias and a false diagnosis of depression, leading to drug treatments that could be bad for the individual. It is important that psychologists consider the potential harm that could come to their participants from such research. By explaining clearly the meaning of the results in the debriefing, the negative outcomes may be avoided. One of the ethical concerns in the study of genetics is how important pre-symptom screening could be in the prevention of mental illness or in negative behaviors. For example, in a large twin study carried out by Christensen, he found a higher concordance rate for criminal activity in monozygotic twins than in dizygotic twins. Although no specific genes were isolated, what if there is a genetic predisposition to criminal behavior? Could we potentially prevent crime by helping people with this genetic predisposition? Now let's do the argument. The argument is problematic and ethically unsound. Genetic research is generally correlational, which means that it is not possible to state a clear cause and effect relationship between genes and criminal behavior. In the case of Christiansen's study, we also have to be careful of how we define criminal activity and the question of what environmental factors may have played a role in the development of the behavior. We have to be careful not to believe in genetic determinism. The interaction between genes and the environment is very complex and oversimplifying. The origins of complex behaviors like criminal activity can lead to labeling, prejudice, and the denial of an individual to choose his or her own path in life. So this was a very long paragraph divided into 4, I would suggest. All this was about analysis of ethics and linking it with the studies. So now let's write the last paragraph, that is your conclusion, and carries 2 marks. Although genetic research is helping us to better understanding the origins of behavior, researchers must always address ethical considerations. Failure to do so will make people less likely to participate in research. In addition, the failure to meet standards may lead to behaviors which look like they support the findings, but may be due to confounding variables like self-fulfilling prophecies, misdiagnosis due to confirmation bias, or anxiety and depression due to stress about the findings. Here we are done with the ERQ. I hope it was helpful. You can make the changes and improvise as per your choice. I will upload more videos on ERQs in this coming week. If you liked my video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.